Look, I just don't, I'm not a big believer in the accuracy on a consistent basis, and I think they're the two most important things that you have to be as a quarterback are they're kind of part and parcel. You have to be really, really accurate, and you have to make really good decisions.
Wednesday edition of Birds 365. Jody Mack playing solo today. Johnny Mack already on, got COVID testing. Jeff Kerr. We'll get Jeff up either Thursday or Friday with a guest spot here from CBSSports.com. Oh, but we got a good guest with us right now. One of my favorite NFL writers. He's been doing it for years. His perspective on the NFL is one of the best we get here on Birds 365. You see him on the JAKIB media. Sometimes he defaults over to that Cilio show from time to time. We're glad when he joins us here on Birds 365. Jason Cole jumps aboard with us. How you been, Jason?
I'm great. What's going on, Jody?
Not a mooch. Let me start here, since I know you're a Florida guy, and I got some responses on the stream.
Okay.
Jalen Hurts opened the conversation again this week about the Eagles quarterback position in 2022. He had a bunch of nice weeks in a row. Eagles offense was rolling. He was a big part of the running game, which had become the best in the NFL. Here come the breaks. Lousy game this past week. So people start worrying about, where are the Eagles going for quarterback next year? I threw out this scenario that if Deshaun Watson eventually gets his legal issues dealt with to a level that a team would jump back in the fray and pay the going rate to get him out of the off the Texans roster. The team that it seems he most wants to go to, and he's got a no-trade clause in his contract, is the Dolphins. They got down the road on trade conversations. Stephen Ross at the last minute saying, and we need him to clear up all those lawsuits first before we acquire him. Pretty much put a kibosh on the conversation at that point. But let's say we're down the road a little bit and it becomes more viable. I'm a Tua Tagovailoa fan, and he's played really well 4 weeks in a row. 4 out of the last 5, he's had a QB rating of over 100. Dolphins are winning games. If the Dolphins are still married to getting Deshaun Watson, what do you think the going price is going to be for a guy like Tua? What would the Dolphins need in return for him on the open market this offseason?
Well, I think it's probably going to be a mid to low 1 plus would be the price that they were aiming to get. Or what's the initial asking price going to be? It'll be some absurd thing like 2 1s plus something else. But once they've got the Watson trade in place, the price becomes lower, right? Because they're going to want to they're going to want to deal with the problem. And the other thing that will determine the price is what's the market for him. Now, there are some people who, yourself, who like him. His completion percentage is good the last few weeks. He's getting rid of the ball quicker. His accuracy is starting to show up. The downside for Tua is he doesn't seem to attack the downfield very well. If he's not in an offense that doesn't have a lot of weapons, is he going to be able to create on his own? Is he the kind of running quarterback that people thought he was coming out of Alabama? I think the answer to that is no, because I don't think he's regained his speed from all of the injuries between the ankle and the hip injuries, but he's okay. So I think there's some variables built into what the price is going to be, depending on how you view Tua. If you're a fan of Tua, you might be willing to pay a 1 plus. If you're not, it may be a 2 and a 3 or a 2 and a 4, something like that.
All right. Just hypothetically speaking, I was having a conversation with Johnny Mack, my usual partner, in the first segment. The Dolphins are going to ask for one of the Eagles' 2 higher first-round picks. Eagles going to have 3 picks this year. Right now, they've got the Dolphin pick, their own pick, and potentially the Colts pick, which is all but a done deal that the Wentz pick is going to end up being a 1. I think the Dolphins would ask for one of the 2 higher ones. They might have to settle for the lower one. If it's a Colts one, it might be middle of the first round, which is not a bad spot either. Yeah, I would be willing to give that up if I were the Eagles. But I'm a bigger Tua fan than most. How big a Jalen Hurts fan are you? We haven't had you on in a couple of weeks. Got a chance to see a little bit more of Hurts, the upsides, the peaks, and the downsides, the valleys this past week against the Giants. Do you think he's a viable quarterback going forward as a starter for the Eagles or any team in the
Look,
National Football
I just don't, I'm not a big believer in the accuracy on a consistent basis. And I think they're the two most important things that you have to be as a quarterback are they're kind of part and parcel. You have to be really, really accurate, and you have to make really good decisions. Um, I don't know that he's very accurate. The decision making is okay. So I see a guy who there are moments when he gets outside of the pocket because of his athletic ability, because he can run a bit, and because he does have a strong arm where he can do some really interesting things and he can exploit some defenses that are over aggressive, right? He's really good at that. But if you're talking about, hey, the ball's got to be out, 1, 2, 3, it's got to go, 1, 2, 3, it's got to go, 1, 2, 3, it's got to go. Boom, we're talking about a second and a half to 2.5 seconds. Eh, you know, I'm not. I start to get uncomfortable with him, and I think that there were a lot of things that were done when he was in college, when he was winning, especially at Alabama, were done to cover up his liabilities. And when you get to the NFL, it's harder and harder to consistently cover up your liabilities.
All right. Let's say the Eagles can't convince Deshaun Watson to come here, and they're not as big a fan of Tua Tagovailoa as I am. And certainly Aaron Rodgers isn't coming here, and I doubt Mr. Wilson is coming here either.
Mm-hmm.
This year's draft class, I know you're an astute observer of not only the National Football League, but you keep your eye on the college football game as well, and for the guys who will eventually become pro quarterbacks. What do you think of the level of the quarterback crop coming out in this year's draft?
I don't think it's very good.
Yeah.
I think that this is a bunch of guys. This reminds me of the year that Boomer Esiason came out in the draft, where your best guy was probably a second round pick. Now they will end up forcing these guys up into the first round because there's such desperation. There's not a single guy in this. There's not a single guy out there who I say, wow, like I see that he's ready to play in the NFL, and I think he's going to be an impact guy. I just don't think it's a very good draft at all.
Yeah, I might like him a little bit more than you do, the way that you're sounding, but we're not far from being on the same page here.
Right.
I don't think there is a stud franchise, unquestioned, this guy's going to step in and raise the level of your organization type
Let's
guy.
play if you're Philadelphia and you got 3 picks in the first round, you're going to end up with 3 picks in the first round almost all likelihood, because you're not going to have to trade up, a boatload of picks to get to the number 1 or 2 or 3 pick. I just don't see that that's going to happen in this draft to get a quarterback. If your desire is to get a quarterback, you may trade up for a guy like Hutchinson. If you love that guy, but generally, I don't think people don't extend themselves like that for defensive players, or non-impact position players.
It's one of the reasons why I think the Dolphins, if they do pursue Deshaun Watson, could do well for Tua, because if a team is looking to change their starting quarterback, I'll take Tua over anybody in this upcoming draft, and it's not even close. All right, let me ask you an NFL question, Jace.
Mm-hmm.
Thanksgiving Day, they had what I called a very typical NFL day. You had two pretty poor teams playing poor football, but it was a great game because it went right down to the wire. Field goal on the last play wins the game. You had two good teams playing exciting football, and it was great. It hung to the last minute. Phenomenal plays throughout the game on the offensive side for both the Raiders and the Cowboys. And then the Sunday nighter, you had a team that looked dynamite, and that was the
Mhm.
Bills, where the Saints are coming apart at the seams because of injuries. But you get that in the NFL too. It was such a prototypic NFL day across the board. I thought, yeah, this showcases for the casual fan that just jumped in for the day. And I said, what's the NFL all about? You got a really good view of it if you watch all three games. The other view you got were flags aplenty. Every
Mhm.
single play you got to look for. Is there a flag on this play? What's the flag on? Who's getting hurt? And I don't know if the NFL has a referee problem or an adjudicating problem. Is it the guys who are calling these penalties, or is it the league that's telling them they got to call these many penalties, or is it shut up, Jody? They did such great rating numbers, they don't even care what you think about refereeing and or the way we call the game. Does the NFL have a problem?
No, they don't. I mean, look, some games are just going to be like that. Okay, you're occasionally get a game where what was it, 28 penalties was it in the Dallas game?
Cowboys Raiders, yeah.
Yeah, Cowboys Raiders. I can't remember the number. I mean, it was in the yardage, and yeah, it's abysmal. It's dreadful to watch. Okay, I don't pay. Like I've had this conversation with any number of um, NFL execs where it's like I don't buy a ticket to watch a guy referee, and like a referee should be like a great waiter. Okay, you go to a really nice restaurant, you have a great meal, the service is seamless, so that you have a wonderful conversation, you're enjoying the meal, everything's going well. You don't think about the service, right? The game is just run. Okay, but sometimes I think it's Marv Levy said you get over officious jerks, and sometimes the game is just sloppy. The game should not be that sloppy at this stage of the year. If you tell me
Right.
this was week 1 or week 2 or even week 3, okay, I get it. By Thanksgiving Day, the games should not be this sloppy. Um, Even Thursday night games or Thursday day games on a short week, they shouldn't be this sloppy. But it was. I don't know that, in all those penalties, I don't know that there were a lot where you would say that was a terrible call.
True.
Okay, they were obvious calls, and you got to make the calls. So all of that is to say, some games are just worse than others. Don't overreact to one or two games. I don't think it's this huge trend. Are we always going to complain about officiating? Yeah, we're always going to complain about officiating. That's just the nature of what we do. We bitch about it all the time.
Yes, and I think we're right to, but the NFL is just going to go. How
I don't
many?
know how you fix it. But I say the thing about it is, people talk about full-time officials. Okay, I'm not sure what does that mean. All right, like like you don't have a lot of games that you can, like, okay, we're finding 40 hours of work to get for a guy to do during the week.
Yeah,
There's not enough games to go around. Okay, are you saying that somebody is a permanent official because you've got him working college games and pro games? And by the way, maybe he's like Gene Steratore and he does college basketball as well. Because he's made his life into being a referee and all those other things. Okay, you could maybe do some stuff like that. But even then, it's not really a full-time job. It's not like being a Major League Baseball umpire. Those guys are full-time, and they're terrible too.
right.
So,
And
so
they
what do you
kind of
do?
have to be because the Major League Baseball season is an everyday thing. Pretty
Right.
much
So
six
that's
out of 7 days a week. The
that's
NFL is a
full-time.
1 day a week thing. So full-time referees is not the answer. Yes, you and I
Well,
absolutely in
I just
agreement
don't
on
know
that.
how. I mean, you can do it. You can hire somebody to be a full-time referee, but other than watching video of games, which those guys already do, I don't know what you're making them do. Like that's the thing that I just sit there and go, okay, what does that mean?
Right. Report to Secaucus so you can watch that many more hours of video and go back over the calls. I don't think it changes things much at all. Jason Cole, I guess, you're on Birds 365. All right. Specifically, that Cowboy Raider game, specifically the Cowboys. Coming out of that game when they got beat, or I should say, leading up to it, a couple of guys whose opinions I respect in the week leading up to had said they thought the Cowboys had a chance to be the best team in the NFC. I woefully disagreed. And then after the game, I kind of said, see, told you so. I think the Cowboys are at best the fourth best team in the NFC. I certainly think the Cardinals are better. I think the Packers are better. I think the Bucks are better. That was a
San
bad game.
Francisco, the Rams, they're all kind of in that bag.
Right. Do you think the Packers, Cardinals, and Bucks have separated from that next group the same way I do?
Marginally so. I think that the Cardinals, losing JJ Watt hurt them defensively quite a bit. But I think they're overall the most talented. I think the Cardinals are the most talented team in the NFC when healthy. Even at this point, even after losing JJ Watt, they're still. The problem is, Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins aren't out there on a consistent basis right now. So you're saying, what are they really? Okay, but if those guys are on the field and they're healthy, yeah, I like that team best of all of them. Marginally more than Tampa, but Tampa's a veteran. Tampa is your team that has, what do they have, 19 guys who are in their 30s. So they know how to play. Like when the playoffs start, Tampa will be focused and ready. All the 17 games that you lead up to it, when you have that many veterans and that many guys who've been around that long, they get a little bored. They know when they have to turn it on and when they don't, and they'll be ready to turn it on when the time is right. Green Bay, it's all about the quarterback. It's just is the quarterback sharp? Is the quarterback ready? Is the quarterback, has he done whatever it is mentally that he needs to do to get himself ready? Because the dude's just different. He's just really, really different.
He is a different dude, but he is also as talented as they come. And yeah, he's got him right there with arguably the best record by the time the season is over and done with. The road to the Super Bowl could run through Lambeau Field. All right, over in the AFC, who's the best team there?
Oh, it's Kansas City. Don't get caught up in the records. They have the most talent by far. They're the most dangerous team out there. When they get hot for a 15-minute or 20-minute stretch, they can just destroy people. Their problem is, and I think to a certain extent, we just talked about the Bucks. When you have all these older guys, they know how to turn it on. Sometimes they get a little bit bored in the middle of the season. I think the Chiefs are a little bit of the flip side, is that they're so young, that they're so confident that, okay, well, we will just turn it on when we have to. No, you have to push the pedal a little bit harder on a consistent basis, and you have to be really sharp. And I think one of the issues with that team is, as much as Mahomes is a great, great player, and when he needs to be a great leader, he's a non-confrontational guy. So, and he doesn't go those guys and get in their face away from the field. I'm not talking about on the field, but away from the field. He does not go up to him and go, we need to be sharp today. We have to be on our game today. He just doesn't want to be a jerk. And sometimes when you're the leader, you got to be a jerk. Okay. And sometimes you have, people say, well, that's got to come from Andy Reid. A little bit. But the guy who holds the ball most of the time and determines the outcome of the plays, he's got to get in some people's faces every once in a while too. There's plenty of stories I can tell. Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, John Elway. We can go Johnny Unitas. We can go all the way back in time, where a quarterback looks around, guys, and we'll go, guys, it is time, and it's now. And if you're not on this page, you're off this field, or I'm shutting you out. That kind of thing. Sometimes you just have to be that guy.
All right, who do you think could give him that edge? Is that got to come from Andy Reid? Is it just an ingrained personality trait that he may not have, that he always wants to be everybody's friend? Can you get that? He's still a relatively young player. He's not a rookie anymore, but
You
he's still
can't
a
get it
relatively young player.
if you aren't that, you're not going to get it.
Okay.
And we have seen it. Like they haven't played a really consistent game from start minute 1 to minute 60 since week 4 of 2020 when they played Baltimore, and it was sort of a look. You guys want to talk about Lamar Jackson and how great he is and how he's on my level and stuff. No, 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 no. Let me show you what level is different. And I'm not saying it's all on Patrick Mahomes, but I would say that it emanates from Mahomes and trickles down to everybody else, as I've sort of discussed already. And it's like, okay, we can be down 14. Yeah, we're cool. I'm good, and let me just, flex my muscles on the sideline, do that little stuff that I do, and we'll throw up, 20 points in 10 minutes, right? And we dominate a game, and then we're, throw up 2 more touchdowns, we're up 17, game's over, blah, blah, blah. It's it's a lot harder to do that than you think. And I think it's a dangerous thing to fall back into that trap all the time.
Fair enough. We're talking Jason Cole here on Birds 365. All right. Far be it from me to be a football cynic. I know I am. I know you are. We talk all the time about the fans who like to whine and moan about the referee. It's in every single one of us.
Yes.
But let's put cynicism aside for a second. How much would the NFL prosper if the Super Bowl pairing this year were the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New England Patriots? If it's Brady against Belichick for all the marbles at the end of this year, how high a rating could the NFL get?
I mean, look, it's going to be ridiculously high. But isn't it just degrees of the same? Like, we know we're going to be way out here anyways, right? Okay, so we're going to be like way out here, and let's go get a step ladder and like go like another hand higher. I mean,
Yeah.
they're already prospering. Okay, they're already blowing up media because they're the greatest thing that media has, right? It's the greatest show because it's ritualistic. It's once a week. It's exciting. It's all the things. It's organized violence. It's a gambler's paradise. Everything. The NFL game is perfect for everything that you want to do. Okay, from tailgating 3 hours before the game and having parties on a Sunday where you invite all your friends to sitting at home with 3 computer screens because you got to check what's my bet on the next play, right? Like it's got everything that you want, right? It's drama. It's a soap opera for men generally, right? And not to say that there aren't women fans, but generally this is a soap opera for men. Um, so okay, if you make it Tampa and New England, does it add another level to it? Yeah, it does. But they're going to have the highest ratings for the year anyways.
Right.
So
But they
you get
could
the highest rated, you get the highest rating by this much more. Okay, cool.
you compare it to themselves. Could they have the highest rated Super Bowl ever? They're the
They,
highest
they,
rated show. You're
I
right
think
about
Brady.
that.
I think Brady Belichick does that, and I think it would be fun. At the same time, I think there's a certain amount of the audience who are like, "God, we've seen this show so many
Enough.
times."
Yeah, they did play in week 4, but playing for the championship at the end of the season is a little bit more important than the game they played at week 4, which, oh, by the way, the Patriots lost and fell to 1-3 and have now won 6 straight games since and are vying for the best record in the AFC. Is this the best coaching job Belichick's ever done with Mac Jones?
No, the first Super Bowl that they won with Brady, coming in week 3. I mean, what's ever going to match that? I mean, there was a bunch of guys who people thought were nobodies. They had 22 guys that they signed that year as free agents and brought guys together. And you take a 6th round pick out of Michigan that nobody knew who he was, and you turn that. I mean, that's a Cinderella story of all Cinderella stories. Mac Jones is a first round pick. Everybody thought he was a first round pick. So no, this is not his greatest coaching job. It's an awfully good one. I'll give him that. But they have like I know that the defensive players from the Patriots in that first Super Bowl run were a lot better than we really understood at the time. You know, guys like McGinnis and Bruschi and Vrabel and all the guys that they put together. You know, Ty Law, who's a Hall of Famer. But it was still a a season out of nowhere because again you replaced a first round draft pick, a number one overall pick at quarterback with a guy who was considered a nobody, an absolute nobody. This year you have decent offensive weapons, and you have really good decent offensive weapons and really good defensive players. So he's got more talent on this team by a long stretch than he had in that first Super Bowl
Okay,
run.
fair
That's all.
enough.
But that's the way I put it.